Well, Sam, there's been obviously a lot of focus on a social media post from Donald Tusk, which many people saw as disrespectful to Theresa May. Then we had this defiant press conference, statement from Theresa May, really. There were no questions from journalists there. It was from a lectern to the journalists. We're hearing how rare that is from Vincent in his life. Let's just show you now what Donald Tusk has just tweeted out. He tweeted a very brief, if I could bring up Donald Tusk's tweet, very simple statement saying, statement on the Brexit negotiations. Now, you then follow the link on his tweet, and for me, the standout line comes at the very end. While Donald Tusk says that the stance of the EU27 is that Chequers is a step in the right direction, a good starting point, it doesn't go far enough. This is the last line, all this talk of respect. We can really tease this out here. While understanding the logic of negotiations, Donald Tusk says, I remain convinced that a compromise good for all is still possible. And look at this. I say these words as a close friend of the UK and a true admirer of Prime Minister May. Now, many people perhaps questioning the true admirer line there, given an Instagram post from yesterday from Donald Tusk. This is that post. It's Donald Tusk and Theresa May enjoying some cakes. His caption, a piece of cake, perhaps? Sorry, no cherries. People seeing that as Donald Tusk effectively trolling Theresa May or mocking Theresa May, if you like. So now we've just heard from Donald Tusk. But another group of people we've heard from are the EU citizens living in the UK. Theresa May was very clear in her speech. In fact, if anything, probably the one main substantive point you could take from it was that she guaranteed the right, even in the event of a no-deal Brexit, of EU citizens living in the UK. Now, we spoke to a co-founder of a group known as the 3 Million. They represent the roughly 3 million EU citizens living in the UK. And this is what Mika Bourne had to say to me earlier.
We've been here before. We've had these guarantees at crucial times in the negotiations before. And although this sounds very positive, there are two stumbling blocks. Theresa May can't really guarantee our rights. We are part of negotiations that also affect the British in Europe. There are some bilateral elements to our rights, like pensions, that she simply cannot guarantee on her own.
And that's what, speaking to me, Mika said that really Theresa May can't do this alone. And also she's saying, what about the UK citizens? You know, the fact this is a bilateral thing, UK citizens living in the EU. And I think that's the really important point. Yes, we've heard from the politicians, we've heard from Tusk, we've heard from May. What about what real people are saying about all this? Just bringing up some comments. Dominic Naylor was actually commenting on our Facebook article saying the Prime Minister is effectively putting the ball in the EU's court, asking them to clear up the UK's mess. Other people, though, on Facebook, like Paul Chadwick in the UK, actually he's saying, look, the EU's got to look after its own citizens, the UK's got to look after theirs. We should be prepared, the UK, to walk away if we can't find a compromise. That's certainly not the stance everybody's getting. Commenting on our Facebook article, Europe Today, which is a pro-EU Facebook page, said it's not up to the EU, Theresa May, to come up with a compromise. This is of your doing, Brexit, me being of the UK's doing. And just finally, the Lib Dems in France. And that's a political group affiliated with the Liberal Democrat Party in the UK. They're based in France. They're representing, in their view, people who are British living in France. They're saying, well, what about there was no mention at all in Theresa May's words of what all this means for UK citizens in the EU? And they're really saying here, we're going to take this political fight up a level, if you like. So you can see here from people, from grassroots political activists, right the way through to campaigners, to people simply commenting on Facebook. There's a sense here that this is a really knotted mess, lots of strong views coming out here, but in terms of reaching a compromise, it seems the EU and the UK are no closer this evening, although those words from Donald Tusk perhaps edging things back to a more conciliatory tone.